Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City Chatter Podcast. I'm John Bernstrom, the host of the show, Public Information Officer for the City of Grand Forks. And welcome this week to Tricia Lunski. Thank you, Tricia, for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me.
You came back, so that's always a bonus. I appreciate that.
Yes.
All right. That's always a good thing. So let's get right into it. At the time when we're doing this, the City of Grand Forks special election on sales tax is actively going on. So what I'm going to talk about what the vote is, and then we're going to get more into some. So the vote is that 3/4 cent sales tax that is currently allocated to the Alaris Center.
Yes.
To pay off for better term, the mortgage and the maintenance.
Yep.
Is going to be extended, or the sunset taken away, and then maintenance still goes to the Alaris Center, but that what we were paying for the mortgage, I'm really dumbing it down here. So, but what we paid for the mortgage, which would go away, would go to a new facility. Can you talk about kind of how we got to this election today?
Yeah. So I think Grand Forks has needed a turf facility, a pool. I think it's really sad that we don't have a pool once the HISLOP comes down.
Right, and that's next year, I believe, right?
25.
25, 2 years,
Don't
2 years
quote
ago.
me on that.
But
I'm
it's
not
coming
sure.
up.
Yes.
It's coming up.
Yeah. So, and I think the HISLOP disappearing really kind of pushed this to the next level. I think our community just really needs this space. So the vote today is, should we keep that sales tax and build this turf/pool facility?
Right. And there is a private-public aspect to this. All True has come forward and saying, if this happens, we're willing to put some money into it for naming rights and stuff like that. So it's not all public money, if you will.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of sponsorship naming opportunities. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all of them, but yes, All True has stepped up for naming facilities. I believe there's someone in line for the turf and someone in line for possibly the track or the pool. And then a lot of other opportunities, too.
So you talk about the need of a facility like this. My children are younger than your children, but my kids play outdoor sports on football fields, soccer fields, and stuff like that. And when it gets into winter, that's kind of it until spring. And even spring's a little, we'll see what spring is like. You're very much more into that. You've done a lot of travel for soccer. Just talk about the places you've been to that have some indoor facilities like this.
So right now, I think West Fargo has the Rusted Center. It's an unbelievable facility. It has three soccer fields. It has a track. It has courts. It has rooms. And yes, sadly, we have to travel to Fargo a few times a week to play winter soccer. There are some opportunities in Grand Forks, but just not as much as Fargo. So the Rusted really stands out to me because it's close. It just is such a beautiful, well-loved facility. So hopefully we can achieve something like that.
I will say this is my son now in middle school, but when he played youth football, the youth football program here in Grand Forks does a really good job. And then they would use the Fritz Pollard. For those that say we have an indoor turf, it's UND's facility over there. Sure, we'd use it sometimes, but having an elementary kid on a Sunday night at close to 10 o'clock, because that's when it's available, was getting a little old.
Right. It's pretty tough right now. It's hard to keep those kiddos up late.
Yeah.
And I think, as parents, we all want to keep our kids active. Winters do get long here,
Yep.
so we just need to get out and moving. So I think the more opportunities we have, the better.
I've been that parent of a nice winter day. Go outside. What should we do? I don't care. Just get out of the house. I don't care. You're driving me crazy. Go outside.
Exactly.
In Ward 4, this happened, I believe it was last week, right? So there's been this ongoing discussion, whether it's tied to the bridge, and we've kind of separated this from a bridge discussion, is traffic safety in that Phoenix Elementary area. That's 4th Avenue South, Belmont Road. And by traffic safety, I just don't mean cars. I also mean pedestrian and by all movement.
Yes.
If you will, in that area. And so I believe you're the one who brought up just saying, hey, whatever the bridge discussion is, that's a separate discussion. We still need to address safety in this neighborhood. And there was a meeting last week. Can you talk about what happened at this meeting? I believe it was at Phoenix.
Yes. So there was a meeting just to kind of talk about options. And I think right now it's Bolton and Mank is doing the study. So they had the meeting, and it was their mentality right now is not about doing big changes, but what small changes can we get out there really quickly that will make a difference? Maybe it's painting the crosswalks. I don't know if you've seen a lot of crosswalks now are just the two lines.
Sure.
They're not the crisscross lines in a normal crosswalk. Having bump outs. Bump outs are a huge soft or a button for a lot of people.
Sure.
They make the pedestrian crossing shorter, but they're hard for facilities to clean up after a snowstorm, or they're just a little bit more difficult. They make turning more difficult, which we shouldn't have a lot of large trucks on 4th.
We shouldn't at all. No.
So it's just some of those things. How can we make small changes matter?
Now, to the bump out thing, when that discussion happened is before you're on council about downtown, and I can get behind the Demers Avenue debate of the truck traffic that's on there. I get that. I drive downtown every single day. A bump out hasn't come out to get me yet.
Yes. Yes, and I think, I think a lot of people are confused that the stop line is back on some of those bump outs so a bus can make the turn.
Right.
And some people just blow past that stop line. But I think there's ways to make it work. A bump out isn't the worst thing that some people think it is.
To your point, small things to be done to, I use the term mitigate. You're not going to eliminate traffic,
Right.
necessarily. It's handle the traffic. Do you know what those bump outs have done downtown? They've slowed everyone down.
Yes, and that's what they should do, and so that's what we're kind of hoping for Phoenix too. They're talking about moving where the bus pickup is. There's just
Sure.
a lot of new ideas. The one lane that Phoenix has is also an alley, so it comes out. It's very confusing. You know what? Parents park at 3:00. They park anywhere.
Yes.
Like what?
Yes.
Why?
I'm
are
not
you
parking. I'm picking up children. It's two different things.
Why are you parked in the crosswalk?
Yep. Yep.
But we've all had those times when we're running late from work or whatever. So I've probably done it myself. But so some of these small things that can make a difference.
And I think it's a balance a little bit, because we all love neighborhood schools. My kids don't go to Phoenix, but they went to Kelly, a neighborhood school. My kids could walk to school.
Yep.
Cherry Street at 8:00 in the morning and at 3:00 in the afternoon was terrible, right?
Yep.
But yes, but it's a neighborhood school. Phoenix is a neighborhood school, right? If that school weren't there, I mean that's from a parent standpoint, that's a huge change.
Right, and I don't think we don't mind the traffic. I shouldn't speak for everyone. I don't mind the traffic. I just want people to slow down.
Sure.
And look for kids. There's a lot of California rolls through the stop signs. That's fine, but just stop and look for the kids.
I drive on Belmont every day. That's my route. Everyone has their route,
Yep.
right? When that intersection of 4th and Belmont went from a traffic signal to a stop sign, it was due to an accident that took out the traffic signal.
Two
accidents. Yeah, that's right. They were back to back. I felt it slowed traffic down, but to your point, then you have a stop sign and it's maybe not a red light. When that went from a traffic signal to a stop sign, as someone who lives in the neighborhood, good, bad, and different?
It's different. I think from a kid's, or at least my kid's perspective, they felt safer crossing at a green light.
Okay.
They didn't feel safe crossing at that stop sign, so they would actually go the longer way and go up a block, or they would cross mid-block, which
Sure.
I never promoted, but they don't always listen.
That's right.
So I think from their perspective, they like the light better. I think traffic. So if you're coming from Minnesota on 4th, you saw a red light, you could cut down Reeves.
You're sure. Yep.
We saw a lot of that. But I think now it seems like traffic on Reeves I think traffic in the whole neighborhood has just increased.
Sure.
So there's just more traffic everywhere. So we have to come up with better ways to deal with more traffic.
Now, I will say this is, so we're doing this study, collective we, the city with the consultants and
No,
everything.
just you and I.
The neighbor, just you and I, sure. Yeah, you and I. But some things come out of this, and they work or make some, they move things in the right direction. Like you said, you're not going to eliminate all the cars, right? Those cars are there. Is it fair to assume that whether it's the new school at Valley or pick the elementary school in a residential neighborhood, you're creating a bit of a playbook for other school areas, don't you think?
Yes, that's our goal,
Yeah.
is to find out some things that work and then be able to pass them on.
Sure. That's just say you're maybe creating more work at the end of this, but that's all right. That's all right. So part of this is we're talking traffic safety, and that's in that specific neighborhood there. Yesterday at committee of the whole, there was preliminary approval to the 2050 street and highway plan. It's a planning document. This one addresses specifically roads. Part of their data input is traffic, right?
Yep.
It's a long-term planning document. It references bridges, but not at locations, just kind of like a in town, south of town, north of town, broad type scope. Long-term planning documents like this, you're new on council, but I think you've been pretty involved in this. What are some things that came out of that out of yesterday's vote that you're just like, okay, I'm glad this is on the map, even though it may not be done next year.
Well, I think it's a bit of a bummer because we have to put this document out,
Sure.
and we can't wait for the study to come out where the bridge should be. Because I think once that bridge location is determined, that will adjust things. But I think what the MPO is pointing out, bridge or not, Belmont needs a lot of work.
Yes.
There's a lot of traffic on Belmont, so as something going to need to be widened, is there turning lanes needed? There's just so many ifs, and with not having that bridge location, I think they can't really narrow some of those down.
Sure.
So I think that was interesting. It was interesting to see the growth of the city, what's anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of exciting.
And then I think it also takes into, you talk about growth of the city, but it also takes into account types of traffic. Like the plan itself anticipated more truck traffic on Gateway. Now there's a potential soybean crushing plant up there. There's other agribusiness on the north end, so that's where you would have more trucks, right?
Right.
So it took into types of traffic as well.
Yep. I think the MPO really breaks it down very well into kind of what parts of the cities are growing in which areas. That makes sense?
Yeah, because it's residential to the south. Those
Right.
need different roads than trucks
Yep.
to the north, right? Both growth,
Yep.
both increases, different types of roads. Also took into account some maintenance. You mentioned Belmont Road, right? Whether it's maintenance, it's hard to find lanes in there, but is it this intersection needs a stop sign? Is there a traffic light added somewhere? And then the subsequent that stretch from 32nd from Belmont to Washington, or Belmont to Cherry. Every spring, I feel bad for a streets department. They got a lot of work to do. That one gets beat up in the winter pretty hard.
Right.
But it's a residential road, right? So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yep, and I think Belmont too, how there's parking on one side of the street, and
Yep.
that other side of the street, it feels so narrow. Like if there's a big truck coming, it's like, oh, can I squeeze over? So I just think there's a lot that can be done with Belmont, and Belmont's going to continue to be utilized more and more.
I give tours on a regular basis, whether someone wants to look at our flood protection. Is lots of times other municipalities, right? Can you show us your flood protection and stuff? And part of the tour I always give is I start on Belmont Road at 47th. And I
Okay.
said, I'm going to indicate to you the growth of the city and how planning changed as we drive north.
Yes.
And I go, you'll notice here on Belmont Road as we drive on it, it's a wider road. The trees are smaller, right? And as we go north, the road's going to get narrower, and the trees are going to get bigger. And that just shows you it's almost like going through a time capsule of the city.
Interesting. I like it. I can picture it in my mind because I've driven it so many times.
Yeah. So I do that, and then as you get up there and by the Phoenix neighborhood area, I get up there and it's these huge trees, right? Massive trees, and especially in the summertime, everyone's just like, "This is beautiful," but we're on a bus.
Yeah.
And our bus driver just, hey, get a little tight. I'm like, we're almost downtown. Just hang on. We're almost there. But he has trees hitting the, branches hitting the
Yeah.
top of the bus and stuff. And but it's something we enjoy doing. With that street and highway plan, was there anything specific tying back into that Phoenix traffic study? Was there any indication? Did it give any recommendations for that area of town?
It does. It gives some needs improvement areas, and that area is definitely one of them. I think with that bridge crossing too, being the last bridge to Minnesota.
Sure.
And then I think too depends on what the development is with the old water treatment park. That's in that neighborhood too.
Sure.
So I think depending on where that goes to, things will adjust.
And that's a good point. I know some people say from a city standpoint, you're shooting from the hip. No, that our old water treatment plant is right off the Point Bridge, and that is no longer used. It is just a mountain of concrete. It can't be used as is, right? So whatever development happens there could potentially add more to whether it's residential, maybe there's some commercial in there. I don't know, but that could lead into that. The city is not looking at redevelopment there without thinking of the other things as well.
Right. I hope not.
No. Now I will say this. So we've talked about planning things, the traffic at Phoenix, the transportation, the highway transportation plan, the 2050. As a council member, this is where you get involved, right? You're at the high level planning. When you ran for council and now have been on council for a little bit, is this what you anticipated being the high level policy area, or were you looking more for, no, I want that stop sign to go right there?
I'm not sure. Not the stop sign right there. I think it was just I had a desire to make my community better. So I'm not sure if I was stop sign or high level, somewhere in the middle.
And also on your time on council, I know you emails, phone calls, whatever it is, social media from constituents. Do you have one topic that is it snow removal? Is it leaves? I can tell you right now, I don't get a phone call. For every 3 phone calls, 2 of them are about leaves. They're still working, by the way. Do you have a common denominator in Ward 4?
I'd say there's been 2 of them so far.
Okay.
One is dogs not on leashes. I didn't realize how many people avoid the greenway because they're scared of dogs.
Oh, interesting.
And people who don't leash their dogs always have this, oh, but my dog is special. My dog is gentle. And I'm learning that people who are scared of dogs, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
You, by not leashing your dog, you're taking that opportunity away from them. And I thought that was really kind of sad.
Right.
So I've gotten a lot of phone calls about that. And then the latest is snowmobiles. I received a lot of calls, texts, phone calls about snowmobiles on the greenway.
If you don't mind me asking, did those phone calls, it was about 50-50? Did it lean heavier one way or the other? Now that a decision has been made, do they still happen? What?
I think, my ward is a lot of the greenway.
Yeah.
It was 97% to 3%. 97% of people did not want snowmobiles.
Okay. Non-scientific polling, I asked Councilmember Weber the same thing when he was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he kind of gave the same answer. I think that's good to hear. I even get that from our office where somebody will call, and I get it. If there's something happening in front of you, in front of your house, that's very important. That is very important. I'm not discrediting that.
Yeah.
Just because it's the first time I hear about it doesn't mean. Right? Somebody goes, I'm sure you're getting phone calls about this. I'm like, it's the first time I'm hearing about it. I haven't gotten a phone call. Now, are you serious? Now, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of, when you see something, or when you put something out there and there's a mistake in it, you're obviously not seeing it, but everyone else assumes you know about it. But yeah, someone
Right.
needs to step up and tell you.
And let us know. Right.
It's kind of like the first year of hockey at the Ralph. I spelled Gophers with an L, and nobody corrected me.
Oh.
So the whole game, it said Golfers
Oh.
on the scoreboard. Not a single
Nobody
soul
said a word.
corrected me.
That's the unique, because that first game was against the Gophers.
Yes.
I was there. Yeah, that's right. Wow, I had no idea.
So I think people need to speak up, because don't assume that people know an issue or.
I say this to my kids, right? We're in preteen years, right? So everything's important. When things are going great and in your head you're just like, I'm indestructible, it's never as good as you think it is. But when things aren't going great, it's not as bad as you think it is, right? There's somewhere in the middle. When I worked in TV and I do a show and I'm like, I was terrible. What did I do? And then I rewatched the show next to one where I thought was good. I'm like, they're about the same.
I like that.
And I'm sure in your business with HB Sound, it's the same thing, right? You come back from a show, you're like you know in your head how you wanted it to go. Maybe it didn't go that way. It doesn't mean it went poor.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some that
You're right.
when there was it felt sometimes when there's an issue, it felt like everyone noticed. That's
Right.
a good point because sometimes people wouldn't notice at all.
And then another one we use is you do something 10 times, you get it right 9. You only hear about that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, so we're gonna get into. I've been doing this now. We've talked business. We've covered Ward 4. For those of you who haven't gone out to vote yet, you have until 7 o'clock. It's November 14th. Go do it. I don't care which way you vote. Just go vote. Thanksgiving is next week. So we had Councilmember Osowski. We talked about UND NDSU. We had Councilmember Weber. We talked about Halloween. So we won't do a show now until after Thanksgiving with Councilmember Kavami, so we get to talk Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So just you've heard about the first Thanksgiving, right? Those pilgrims and all that stuff, Native Americans and all that stuff. Do you know when that was?
You could have told me to study.
I just wrote it down myself. It's not like I knew.
1887.
No, 1621.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's the same way. And evidently, it was a 3-day festival.
Interesting. Well, ours was kind of 3 days.
It kind of. We do it. We get long weekends out of it. Yeah. Another interesting one is we do Thanksgiving. It is the the 4th Thursday of November. That was put into place by Abraham Lincoln to coincide with when Pilgrims landed here.
Okay.
Because there's a debate of when the first Thanksgiving time of year that actually happened.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm not going to give too much credit to our Canadian friends, but it sounds like the Canadian Thanksgiving in October is probably right. They say that the tied to harvest. So the first
Okay.
Thanksgiving was probably closer to early October than it was to late November.
Well, okay, where was the first Thanksgiving?
That's a good question. I did not look that up.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I guess we live in the tundra. It gets
Right.
very cold.
It gets very cold here, so it's got to be south of that.
Yes.
Probably closer to an ocean.
Right.
Yeah. And then you get into that, right? This is before we had borders and everything. Did it take place in Canada? You know?
Interesting, right.
Yeah, who knows? Okay. I don't know how it is in your house, but Thanksgiving in my house, I wake up and I don't have control of the TV for a while because we have to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
course.
Right? That's part of the deal. Now, the first parade, do you know when the first parade was?
I'm terrible with dates like this.
Because I was surprised. I didn't know.
You will never ask me to be your partner at bar trivia.
Okay. 1924.
Okay.
So, the parade now, and there's all these balloons and everything. That first parade, they actually took live animals from the Central Park Zoo, walked them down the street.
I kind of love that.
Yeah, that's a way to do it. And not just like, oh, we're taking the horses or monkeys, elephants,
Wow.
right down the street.
Mhm.
And that was the parade. I thought that was interesting. I mentioned the balloons. Now, this is a straight guess. I don't know. Which balloon has been in the most, which character?
Garfield.
No, not a bad guess. Right? You have to go back to comic strip time, right?
Yep.
Snoopy.
Oh, of course.
Snoopy has been in, now this is as of 2019, because it's not every year that Snoopy's in it, but since 2019, or as of 2019, 39 times.
Oh, so he's taken quite a few years off.
Well, they talked about there's a few years where there was the Peanuts cartoon group, but they had Charlie Brown as the balloon and not
Okay.
Snoopy. But Snoopy's there. Now, this is the one I talked to you about beforehand. Thanksgiving Day song, we have Christmas songs, we have Easter songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
4th of July, there's patriotic songs. I don't think a Thanksgiving Day song. But evidently there is a very popular song that was written that we all sing that was actually a Thanksgiving Day song. Jingle Bells.
That doesn't even make sense because I thought the Jingle Bells were from Santa.
It was originally titled One Horse Open Sleigh.
Oh.
And this is in the 1800s, 1850s. Written in 1857, meant to be a Thanksgiving Day song. It's doing whatever. And then in 1859, around Christmas, got popular. So the composer changed the name of it, and it's now a Christmas song.
Interesting. Well, Good for him for adapting.
Yeah, I think it's a good entrepreneur move there, right? I got a product. Thought it was over here. It's now over here. So let's make that work.
Well, maybe we need to write a Thanksgiving song.
Yeah. This is where I'm not a good partner for you. You can do that. You're the creative side. Coming up to Thanksgiving, is there a go-to dish at Thanksgiving besides turkey? Or maybe you're not a turkey house.
Well, I don't eat meat.
Oh,
So if Jamie's here, he can do the turkey because I'm not
sure.
doing that. I'm a huge fan of sweet potatoes, so we have to have a new sweet potato dish every year.
Oh, a new one.
Yes.
See, I like sweet potatoes as well, specifically the next day.
Yes. Everything's a little bit better.
Because
the
once
next
sweet
day.
potatoes sits in the fridge for a little bit,
Yeah.
it's now a dessert.
True. And my mother-in-law does make really good pies, so I look forward to that.
Yeah, the sweet potatoes. In my house, and this is very much a Scandinavian thing. Very much a Scandinavian thing. I grew up, and you can get it any time of the year, but it only came out at holidays, was potato sausage.
Gross.
Yeah. My wife says the same thing, right? There are 3 people in the world that I know who like it, and it's my father and my 2 brothers.
Interesting. Huh.
So, and it's funny on Thanksgiving, if we're hosting Thanksgiving, my wife does all the work. I'll do dishes, but all the food prep, she does all the work. And then she goes, "It's time for your potato sausage," and she leaves the kitchen. It's literally boiling water and just putting it in there. But she goes, "You're doing that."
Yeah. I'm gonna have to Google potato sausage.
Yeah, it's a good one. I don't know where my family came from in Sweden, if it was a thing or not, but
Yeah.
it's in the Bernstrom household. Well, Trish, thank you. Thanks for coming back. I think we covered what's going on in Grand Forks at this time. Not gonna lie, loving the weather.
Yes, it's amazing.
We're stealing a day. We're stealing a winter day every day. I walked in with no coat today.
I know. This morning walk, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I
so
know.
I'll take it.
That's the way to go. So thank you for coming by and on the City Chatter podcast, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And Tricia Lunski, thank you. Crews are going to be picking up leaves through this week. We'll see where we go from there, but we run into the Thanksgiving holiday next week. At the time we're doing this, it is November 14th, so we'll find out here soon what the state of a sales tax extension. We'll see what happens and what subsequently happens after that with a potential indoor turf and pool facility. But other than that, you want to catch any past episode of the City Chatter podcast, go to grandforksgov.com/podcast. And you can see all the past episodes. I think we're episode 12, and I'm probably wrong. I think 12. Hey, backroom, 12. We're on episode 12. Good deal. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.